Welcome to the podcast, man. I'm super excited to have you on. We've got a lot of good conversation to have today, man, and I'm really excited that you took some time to join today. So I think we should start off just with a quick little introduction, just who you are, where you're from, and what you've been up to these days.
My name's Daveon Douglin. I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Jersey. I went to college in Ohio at Ohio State, studied psychology. I'm trying to get a master's degree there. What I've been doing recently, I live in Vegas right now, so I'm kind of everywhere a little bit. I live in Vegas, and truly, I'm just trying to like improve myself as well as helping other people. I have a nonprofit with my family. It's called New Breed. And just like how I'm trying to improve myself and trying to improve the way I'm trying to do it, I'm trying to spread that message to everyone else and like help as I can. So just it's about promoting excellence in mental, spiritual, and physical health and how that can truly like fix a lot of things in life because it's fostering self-love through that type of mentality.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's just doing that.
Nice. What got you into that? Like you said you and your family started it. So is that something that your parents or your siblings have kind of instilled in you from a young age as far as like the desire to better yourself or the whole self-improvement game?
No, my parents definitely like have that in there. They're trying to make a whole we gotta we gotta be like the white people with their family, have that generational wealth type shit. And so like they're trying to make a Douglin name and
Mm,
starting that. So they've always been truly like pushing improvement on us from a young age. Like I remember throughout like all of school, we'd have random days when you're like, okay, you're gonna read the dictionary. Like you gotta learn these words, or like, hey, we're gonna do an essay this week, or like stuff like that. And we've always been like a very fitness dominated family because my brother and my mom are a boxing trainer and son together. He's called the mama's boy. She's the mom. So he's a professional boxer. That's why we're in Vegas right now because he's a professional boxer and boxing is big hair. So that's always been a big thing when it comes to that. And then me personally, I've always been like in tune with, I guess, my emotions and the spiritual side. That's why I like got into like psychology. Like that's why like always been trying to like help people in that way. So I just combined all three of them and I was like, okay, that's kind of like what you need and throughout like all of life. Cause like sometimes people are just oh, I'm gonna get really jacked, but like then okay, you're still a little depressed. Like you probably only wanted to get jacked because you felt some like insecurity about yourself and you never fixed the insecurity. So like you're still missing something. Like people always like attack one part instead of like attacking all three. Like
hmm
so I just want to spread that and like I do that for myself as well.
100%, man. I think that's what drew me to your content, your philosophy so much in the beginning was just how you're talking about the blend between spirituality and fitness. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. Like, how do you view working out and fitness? Like some people just see it as like some shit that they gotta, get done in the day, find an hour to do it and then move on. Other people like really make that mind body connection and like are really into it, in that way. And it's like leveling them up in ways that are not just physical. So yeah, I was just curious like what your relationship with it is.
My relationship with fitness has been like different over the years. When I started, it was more like something to do with sports and like my family was doing it. So like it was just something I did. But as I like went like very much closer, like around COVID time and later into like when I was in Ohio, like a bunch of my friends were leaving like to go back to like their old home stuff and I was still in Ohio. I was just getting lonely and shit. And but like the fitness, like it was just a way for me to have some me time and like this me time allowed me to improve myself at the same time. So like to me, that's like my type of therapy situation. That's why I might post online and stuff because I want to spread, but like when I work out, I never want people watching me. I really just want to be alone. Like give me my music. Like please don't come up to me. Like you're
Hmm.
really fucking up my like space right now.
Yeah.
So that's how
So
I feel
you work
about
out
it.
alone always?
I will no, I truly me as a person, I like being with people, but I have to be with someone who's working out with me because we got to be in the same space. If you like, because I have a gym at my house, so like there'd be people around, and they'll just like sometimes be like watching, and I'm like, yo, stop looking at me. Like if you want to come join, down, because then like we're doing this together. We're in the same headspace. But if you're just watching me, you're just really just fucking up my mental right now. Because like now I'm just looking at you random times. I'm like, what are you doing? Mm.
Yeah, I feel that. It's tough, like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like people look at it as like I don't know, a show and prove sort of thing when they're in the gym, or if they're like working out in a public setting. It seems like it's not for them. I think a lot of people are doing it, for that external proof, that external validation, as opposed to just like really locking in and learning about themselves as they do it and getting the most out of that experience. So I totally hear you on wanting to like have your own space and you're being in your own kind of like mental headspace when you're doing it, because um I just prefer like doing workouts at my house or in my backyard, or like if it's in a public park or something, like I just try and be in kind of in a quiet away space. And I only started actually going to a gym pretty recently since COVID. Like after COVID, I was just more into like the home workouts and doing, video, like doing some of the guided hit workouts and stuff. But it took a while for me to want to go back into the public space and do that because, um, yeah, I mean, you're opening yourself up to a lot of criticism, a lot of comparison potentially when you're looking at the person next to you, like putting up numbers and you're not even keeping up with them. And I don't know. The gym's kind of a funny place, man. It's a little bit different. Like I've never treated it as a social situation, a social place to be, but I know a lot of people do that. So I guess what do you think about people who are like in their socializing, like treating it like social hour?
I believe as soon as you exit your house and even in your house, depending on your living situation, everything's social hour. And like
Hmm.
you just gotta like make it that way. Just because once someone else's worldview comes in view of yours, then you have to like completely like try to understand each other. Because you can't ever like truly like just shut everyone off. It just doesn't work. And we're social animals. I can
Hmm.
understand, but like there's pros and cons to everything. It's just like the thought process of being alone, like, yeah, that's good. And like when you're like at your home gym and not like having any comparison for that type of situation. But then like you could also like be because you have to be, I feel like working out alone at home is way, way harder because you have to constantly be on yourself. Like you got to make sure like, okay, like this one like 1 minute and 30 seconds like break. Oh, I'm not like scrolling over here. I'm like, I got to make sure. Am I truly pushing as hard as I want? Is this the way I go? I feel like there's the pros of being in a gym. You have the environment of like people around you doing the same thing and like just being in that space with other people like pushes you because like yeah you are looking at that person and it is that competition and like competition isn't bad like but it breeds that like it could breed insecurity but it also could breed like I need to get like that person so like that's kind of like a conversation you always have to have with yourself because people can look at the same exact situation four different ways and they can all technically be correct. But you gotta look at it the way that pushes you forward in the best possible way you can. So
Hmm.
like there's pros and cons of both. Like I feel like you use it. The way like gyms being social though, like what I started noticing, and I think we talked about it once, it was like, yo, like I go to like yoga events because one, I enjoy flexibility, but also the type of girl that I probably want to meet is probably also going to this yoga event because she's into like the same fitness aspect, like that type of mindset. So like I'm gonna meet people there. It's like how you meet people at work most of the time because they have the same like interests as you.
Hmm.
So it being social is a great way to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I guess I just never looked at it that way, you know? Like maybe I should have been more open to it in the past in terms of like meeting people or having sort of an attitude towards it that like if there is a natural kind of interaction that happens, I'll just flow with it as opposed to just, having the headphones in and just going in and like grinding through the workouts and then leaving and being gone with my day. So I think that's a good shift, man. And I like what you said about anytime you leave your house or like anytime you do anything in the world, it's always going to be social because that's like a part that's neglected. I mean, thinking about self-improvement, there's so much talk about business, how to sell things, how to become a better physical version of yourself, how to eat healthier, but there's just not enough emphasis on that part of like, the social aspect of being a person and like how to improve your ability to read people and all those little things that I feel like people are kind of sleeping on. So are there things that you do to, I guess, what are you the most focused on? Like, are you kind of like doing it holistically, like improving every area of your life, or what are you really honing in on these days? Because I kind of come and go in terms of what I'm focusing on.
I'm always focusing on like probably mental slash spiritual aspect more just because I'm big into psychology and like understanding people just because like that's just how my mind works. When I'm out, I'm just looking at people and I'm like people watching constantly. So like
Mm,
that's how I am. So like that's the type of stuff I go towards more.
hmm
Like my physical aspect is nice, but like then like I definitely love my body. Like trying to build that. But I'm always like reading psych books, just understanding what you can do. I'm not like huge fan. I read self-help books, but I feel like once you read like four of them, they kind of all say the same thing. So I'm like, okay, I need to read more like research topic books that like are specifically honing in on like what are the specific topics and how does the science work this way? And like how can I truly like use this technique to actually improve like socially or like understand, oh, this is happening to me at this current moment.
hmm Are there any techniques that you've pulled out of that you're working on?
I was just reading, God, what's the book called? It's Michael Gladwell. The Tipping Point. I'm just reading the Tipping Point, and they were just talking about like these three different people and like how these are the type of people who truly make like epidemics happen. And they were like, there's like a maven who's a person who's like someone who just knows all the information about stuff like in the world. Like, hey, if you need to go here, do this. This is what the car prices are in here. Like, this is the best restaurant, that type of situation. And then there's like connectors, people who are just like just seem to know everyone. And then they were talking about these people who are like called I forgot what it's called, sensors. It was basically like this specific type of person who they can be like very like they can share their energy because they were talking about this. They were talking about how like most people think of emotions as a outside in, like I feel happy and thus I smile, or I feel sad, so I'm frowning. But then they were saying, but there's people who can make you happy. So like that's them throwing their energy on you, and that's from going outside inward. I mean, yeah, the other way was inside out. This way is like they're expressing like I'm making you happy, and then you start smiling. So we don't really think of emotions like that, but like when you do that, that's like a way that you can be more persuasive to people. And they're saying like the most persuasive people are the people who can truly affect how you emotionally feel, and that like you like most people mirror each other just how naturally that happens, and the people who end up like truly persuading you the most is truly because they're making you fall into like their way of speaking and like their habits, and that's because they are like truly giving you all their energy and you're accepting it because you're just like I'm okay with this, like okay.
hmm
So I was truly like honing in on that because like I always think like I'm good at picking up energy and like so like if I can like use that in specific ways, I could be a more persuasive person in general.
So how does one pick up on energy? Like, are there specific things that you notice that like will give someone like a specific type of energy or like that you'll notice and you'll be like, all right, that's this type of person?
I think everyone notices it, but they just don't notice they notice it, and that's what shuts people off. Because if I tell you, like you, like everyone knows when someone's having a bad day, that's an energy, but that's an extreme energy, and you just don't think about it. But like that is an energy. You just know, like, oh, you just like, oh, this person just walked in this room, and it just feels like it's low. Or you know that person who's just like a golden retriever, and like when they're around, you're like, oh, I can't help but smiling.
Hmm.
Those are like those are things that we all consciously know, and like we know many people about that, but we never think about like what is that? It's when you like step back a little bit, like, okay, this person is actually like it's suiting a specific energy that I'm feeling and it's affecting me. Like once you understand that and you start like you can then like when you're in like walking around the road, you can start noticing and you should start looking at people and like, okay, this is what this energy feels like. This is when this feels weird. Like, and then you start like you know like how emotions are because most of the energies are basically just your emotional spectrum. But you'll like start noticing, okay, this feeling that I'm getting from this person is because they feel like this emotion. So it's truly just like it's really like practical, like rudimentary stuff, but it's only when you start noticing it's practical and rudimentary stuff do you start like picking up on it. Because I feel like we just don't even think it's possible, and the whole thought process that we don't think it's possible makes it not possible.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. What about people that are, we all have like people that we know that are kind of socially unaware, right? Like we've all met people along our lives that just are not really picking up on those social cues and are just kind of like saying things or maybe acting a certain way in a situation that's not right. So are those people just not good at picking up energy, or do you think that because you're saying it's very basic and rudimentary and everybody understands it, but I'm thinking about these people, like, are they bad at picking up energy, or is there another issue going on there?
There can be like everything has multiple answers. One, they could be an asshole, so they know what they're doing and they're just
Hmm.
completely ignoring it.
Yeah.
Two, they can be like someone who's just like so in their world that like, oh, they're just doing what they do and like they don't really know like social cues in this way or they should act this way. Honestly, I feel like those are like really innocent people, like because you have to kind of get what a social cue is. It'd be easier if people would just say, "Hey, this is how I feel. This is what's happening at this current moment." But
Hmm.
like some people would just like be like, "Why wouldn't you just tell me?" And it's like that's a very innocent mindset. I feel like it usually ends up being one of those two people that or they have like some also like there's sometimes you just have like mental situations like that. But
Hmm.
also like
Hmm.
those mental situations like that, like people who could be like on like the spectrum have that innocent type personality because like they're just doing what they're doing.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like it's hard to pin down, one reason or cause of why somebody might be the way they are or why they're acting that way. I mean, there's so many layers and so much
Ask them.
history. What was that?
Honestly, I just feel like the easiest question. If you don't know about something, just ask someone. And most of
Yeah.
the times they will just tell you, or you'll be able to figure out from their answer. Like,
Hmm.
because if it's a dickhead, a person who's a dickhead will say something that's just like, oh, you just trying right now.
Yeah.
And a person who's innocent will usually be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean? Like, and they will do it in like such a, you'll get out from that, like, you'll have that feeling like, oh, this person is truly just genuinely like, does not know what's happening at this current
Yeah.
moment or like doesn't get it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. They're just not picking up on the hints, the energy.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Right on, man. Well, so I wanted to dive in a bit more to your approach towards spirituality and kind of, your philosophy towards life, because I feel like everybody has a different way of looking at spirituality. Some people don't even tap into that part of their life at all. And I guess I've only recently started to become a bit more spiritual over the years. I was always very like scientific brained and like really focused on the data and the results. And if I can't attach a number to it, then I'm not going to believe it. So, what is your kind of philosophy around that, man? I know it's a really broad question, but like, do you believe in any sort of like do you follow like a religion, or do you follow like general spirituality? Do you believe in the universe as a whole? Like what is your kind of philosophy there?
Honestly, I'm not sure because like I guess I would believe in Jesus. That would be it. But I also believe I feel like science, spirituality, and religion are all just saying the same things in different ways. Because
Hmm.
like the way I think about it is like you call spirituality, they would call it like the aura, right? Or like maybe religion might call it the Holy Ghost. Like science will call it the electromagnetic spectrum. Like
Hmm.
they're all like saying the same exact thing about this specific person, just using different terms. So I just think when it comes to my spirituality, what I truly just try to do is just, well, it's like meditation, like just being very present at the moment. Like I was reading a book, which was like I forgot what it's called, but it was just like when you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. Don't think about the tea that you got to make after it, because
Hmm.
like then you're not in the moment that you're doing it. And that's how I try to feel about like the spirituality aspect. Just be in this current moment.
Yeah, just feel how you're going to feel without trying to assign any sort of label to it. I think that's a really good approach. Um, and that's so spot on. Like everybody, all these different philosophies and ways of looking at the world are all kind of saying the same thing. And what I found, I never was attached. Like I never grew up religious. Like my family didn't have um, a practice or anything, and I just kind of had that void in my life growing up. And they weren't really spiritual either. They were all very rational, kind of logical. At least my mom and my dad were. And then later on, I started to realize like I was reading actually a biography about Einstein, and I was really shook when I read that Einstein said that he was actually a very spiritual person and his religion was science. And I thought that was so deep because I was so attached to science and I was so just scientifically minded. And then like reading that was like, okay, well, this guy, Einstein of all people, is saying that he's spiritual and that he has that connection with the universe. And I think it's just a sense of awe that we all have about things that we don't know and we can't explain. Like that seems to me to be the root of religion. It's like the world is kind of scary if you don't have a figure like watching over you, if you don't have some sort of structure to follow your life along. And then science is also just trying to assign meaning and purpose to what we're all doing here. So there's a lot of crossover, man. And yeah, over the years, definitely started to lean more towards the spiritual side. And try to make those connections between all three of those different areas. So I think it's this nonstop journey, and um, if you just stay present, like you're saying, staying focused on just doing the dishes and appreciating that moment, the little things will kind of trigger that sense of awe. Even if it's just some small little thing, going for a walk outside or cleaning your room, like it can hit you at any point in time if you're truly present.
Yeah. And especially with like how you're talking about the religion and science, like everything stems from fear. Like when we're trying to like, and that's the fear of the unknown. Like that's why like the ancient Greeks, it signed like they didn't know what the fuck the wind was back then. So they're like, oh, some god's doing that. Like, well, the sun is like going down for like a part and then the moon's coming up and coming back again. They like, how the fuck is it doing? It was like, okay, Apollo's pulling that with his like chariot. They're just
Yeah.
like saying the same, they're just trying to not like feel like they don't know anything or to fear that unknown stuff. Science does that same thing. They're like trying to understand why the universe is this way. Spirituality is like, I guess, not understanding what the universe, but just accepting the universe, which I like feel is like best because the no matter what, you knowing or not knowing, the thing is the thing, and that's it.
Hmm.
So you just got to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. How do you feel about people who um they are not willing to accept their situation? Like what advice would you give to somebody who is like always the person that's coming up with an excuse about why they can't do X, Y, or Z, or why they're feeling bad for themselves, or why they're like got their head down in their current situation? Like what would you tell somebody who's feeling that way or telling you that?
That's like at that point when like you have a victim slash loser mentality and you're putting it on yourself. Like you, that's when tough love comes in because I'm like, yo, dude, like shut the fuck up. Like you like I'm pretty sure so many worse people who have like so many other people who have worse problems in your life than but they're still like going out there doing it and probably gonna like surpass you because you just think you just have a strictly victim mentality. Oh, oh is me, the world's out to get me. You're not that
Hmm.
important, dude. Like
Yeah.
just if you want to get better, do the things you have to do to get better. I always think like and people hate it. I don't know why. I just like life and being the best is simple. Everyone knows what they have to do to get ahead in life. It's just doing it. That's the hard thing. And like I remember like there was this quote from BoJack Horseman. It was like he was running one day and then he ended up getting tired and this dude came through. He was like, the run is gonna be easier. You just gotta do it. Doing it's the hard part. You gotta do it every day. That's the hard part. Like that's the thing. Like, but the simple thing, he knows he has to run. You know that's a simple thing to do. You just gotta
Hmm.
keep doing it. And like I feel like people just don't want to, or like they just want to be I feel like they probably just been babied as a child and like now they got pushed into the world and they don't know how to specifically, they haven't specifically adjusted. And truly, they're just going back to that specific mentality from when they were young and like, oh, I'm gonna cry. If I cry enough, someone's gonna come and help me out. And then they haven't figured, they just eventually gonna have to figure out at a point like, wow, I've been crying for so long. Like, I don't think anyone's gonna help me out. I guess I gotta help myself out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's tough love, I guess.
for sure. Yeah, tough love seems like a good response to that, just give it
But
to them
like,
straight.
if I was truly like after a tough love, you then have to like, I do one thing with me. Like you saying this, I just do this one thing with me at this time every day, and let's see how it works out. Like if you're truly like, make this bet with me. If you're truly right, then this shit's supposed to fuck up, right?
Hmm.
But maybe not. Just trust. Like that's the time to like trust me, not you, because obviously you think the world. If I'm your friend, trust me that I know what I'm saying, and then just do it with me because I want you to do it. And hopefully they will like as you put your hand out, they'll grab it, and then like you can slowly pick them back up, and they'll eventually see like, oh, the world is not out to get me. I just have to put the work in. And then like as you do one thing, you can do a second one, and then eventually they'll understand through their own self like growth that, oh, I can do this by myself. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I feel like just one step at a time, and instead of focusing on this radical transformation that I think a lot of us are seeking, it's like just start with the one little thing. Like if you're starting with a clean slate and you're not doing anything to improve your life, you're not taking action every day to take baby steps forward. Don't try and not like don't try and take on the entire world and become better in every single area. Just do the one area, like read 10 pages of a book. And then once you start making that part of your routine, you kind of stack on habits on top of that. And,
Yeah, it's like
that's the
from
best way to
Atomic
do it.
Habits, be like that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Habit stacking,
Stacking
man.
on healthy habits. Like
Yeah.
just keep stacking on small little habits and then you'll become better.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And I have this idea that I talk about on one of my episodes about raising the baseline. And I want to just hear what your take is on this and if this might relate or if you think there needs to be some tweaks to this approach. But the idea is about making difficult things a part of your normal routine and making them a part of your daily habits and raising the baseline about what is normal and acceptable to you. Like, for example, taking fitness as an example, like, we've probably both been working out pretty consistently for many, many, many years. And now it feels weirder to not work out than it does to work out. So
True.
the idea about like raising that baseline is so you start building these things in to where it feels strange when you're not doing them, but they're positive habits. They're not negative things. It's not like smoking cigarettes or, going out drinking. It's like these are things that you actually want in your life. So do you think that resonates, or do you think that's like too generic? It doesn't hit home.
I like the idea. I just feel like maybe like it's a little bit unclear to me, but like I get the whole concept about it, but like I feel like it could be said clearer and more concise.
Hmm.
Because, but like the idea of raising because the idea of raising the baseline to me and how you said like doing the difficult things and what you said at the end seems like two separate ideas, but I agree with both of the two separate ideas.
Hmm.
Like, but I definitely agree with the first time. Like, you just gotta like break past that comfort zone, which is basically what you're saying. Once you break past that comfort zone, you just now this is your new comfort level
Hmm.
because you've done it already.
Yep.
And you just like constantly like life starts at the end of your comfort zone. You're as you say breaking past that baseline level and you're just going to the next step and then you become better and better by doing that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you just made me think of it when you're talking about taking your friend by the hand and stepping them through one thing per day, because that is kind of in a way, raising their baseline once that becomes a normal part of their life, and then they just,
Yeah,
build on from there.
I feel
So,
that.
yeah. So, I wanted to pivot a little bit and talk about your experience in the rave scene. So we're taking a hard turn right now. Um,
Okay.
Personally, I love
Man.
the rave scene, man. I've had my moments, and I kind of discovered it late. I was a little bit of a late bloomer, so I've only been, I guess, in the game for 3 or 4 years. I've been to raves when I was younger in college, but I started really getting after it, I guess, in like 2021. And I don't know, I had some transformative experiences at some of these events. So I just wanted to see what your connection with the rave scene was, and whether you had any like, epiphanies or moments that kind of change your life course as a result of that.
I think raves are specifically the proper way where you can, as you said, how do you notice energy and stuff? When you go to a rave, you can tell, like, for some strange reason, this feels nice.
Mhm.
Like, these people just seem nice. I feel comfortable here. Like, and I enjoy that. And honestly, it's very annoying because I love raves. I love EDM, but EDM is probably like my second favorite genre. Like, my first favorite is like hip hop and rap. And went to that show in like fucking Miami, Rolling Loud. I went to Rolling Loud and watching it as a fan and watching the artists were so amazing. They're incredible. I would love to see them all again, but I'm never going to a rap or hip hop festival again because the people were just assholes. No one was like connected with each other. I remember I was like with these two girls and they're like 5 foot something. And I'm only 5'8". Then this dude was like 6'4", just like walked in front of us. And I was like, he's like just walked and pushed in front of us and was like, yo, what are you doing? Like, first of all, we're all shorter than you. Like, you can just see over us. Like, why are you walking in front of us and now we can't see something? And it's not like you're going like you did not go much farther than like you went like 2 inches. So like you're just being an asshole right now. And like that's like how the experience for like everyone was there. And it was just like no one was nice. Everything made me feel like I had to be like shielded a little bit. And I was just like, eh. But like when it comes to the rave culture, like they're just there to about like true acceptance and plur, which is like peace, love, unity, respect. And I just enjoy that whole concept. People are like so nice. You might lose something and like boom in an instant. Like people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna help you try to find this." They'll like clear a whole entire crowd for like, "Let's figure this out right now." I'm like, "Okay, that's so nice." Like people are just so friendly and it's just nice. It allows like when you feel while you're supposed to break out of your comfort zone, the point of the comfort zone is that when you feel comfortable, you allow yourself to truly go inside and like do the things that you haven't tried before, but you want to try now. That you're like, oh, I think I might be interested in this. When you're in that comfort zone, you don't have the thought process of, oh, but what are other people gonna say if I do this or if I try this? They'll be perfectly okay, even if you fail. And like you know that. So I feel like rave culture allows you to like get to know yourself more than like outside culture. Because then, like, if you're outside and you're around people, you have that tendency of like, oh, I want to do this, but someone might judge me badly, and I don't really want to feel that. So you just don't do it a bunch. Rave culture gives you that social communication that you still need around to try the things that you want to do while giving you that comfortability to make it feel safe to do it. So people start like understanding who they are a lot more there.
Mm, yeah, no, absolutely agree. And what you're talking about with the Rolling Loud experience brings me back to a few rap shows over the years. I don't know if you ever heard of Rock the Bells.
Mhm.
Yeah, Rock the Bells was it's an old festival. I think we went in like 2013, but just the energy there is crazy compared to some of the raves. And there's just a lot of like really frantic, like hectic energy. You know, you kind of sense it from people. Um, and I don't know, there's some cities that I've gone out into where like that's just the vibe, you know, like specifically in downtown San Jose. I used to live in San Jose, and I always just joke around about going out downtown there because there was like inevitably going to be a fight, you know, it was going to break out or some crazy shit was going to go down, and that was all just based on the energy. You know, you just you go into the place and all of a sudden, like I'm a peaceful person, but I'm on edge. I'm like ready for some shit to go
Yeah.
down, you know, and it's like it just brings out the worst of you versus raves, which I feel like bring out the best version of yourself. And then also opening your mind up to new experiences and being surrounded by that many people that are also open-minded is crazy. I mean, it's a game changer.
Also, like, it's a specific environment that allows you to do specific sort of drugs like shrooms and acid and DMT and feel safe. And like that's very like in intuitive like type of experiences when you're tripping and you like get to like you truly like know yourself so perfectly because as I always say, like tripping just brings out like who you are truly. And if you don't want to do something, that bad feeling, like when people get like, oh, I had a bad trip, it's probably because one, you didn't want to do something, or something was telling you, which is like anxiety. Because to me, I think anxiety is just like you're supposed to be doing something or you're not supposed to be doing something, but you are doing it or you're not. And like you're just that's why you're anxious because you know you should be doing this, but you're not. And then like that's why you're fucking anxious. That's why you're always supposed to go towards your anxiety because like it's telling your body is physically telling you this experience. So like when you're tripping, that thing raises up so high to the point where like you physically probably won't like if I'm doing this, like, oh, I'm just not gonna do this. This doesn't feel good. I'm just
Hmm.
not doing it. Or this
Yep.
feels amazing. I'm gonna do it all the time.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a book called How to Change Your Mind?
No, I have not.
You would love that book, man. It's all about how psychedelics can change your experience, increase, you know, neuroplasticity in your mind and change how you view the world. But it's not like it is scientific, but it's not like super hard like research based science. It's like kind of almost a story. Like this guy, you know, this author who's like an amazing author, like really rigorous scientific kind of guy, Michael Pollan, and he talks about his experience learning about research in psychedelics, and then how he eventually ends up trying some of them at the age of like 50 something for the first time. But dude, amazing book, super eye opening about that kind of stuff. But what you were saying made me think of that, like there's something that they talk about in that book about how, you know, experimenting with psychedelics only magnifies what's already going on in your head. It doesn't create shit. Like you're not going to do it and then be like, oh my God, I'm just like a totally different person or my personality is different. It just kind of like spotlights certain things that are going on in your own head already. And if those are
Yeah.
anxieties and fears, then you might have a tough time. Or if it's like positive energy in your mind already, then you're gonna have the time of your life. So I feel like that's so crucial going into it.
Yeah, that's why I said you have to like have a good vibe before you go into it.
Hmm.
Because if you're going through something, that's gonna be on your head. And unless you're ready to specifically take yourself through that whole entire mental and like emotional trip, at that specific moment, then sucks. You probably shouldn't do this. If you
Mhm.
are ready to go for it, because like I know people who like do this because like, okay, I have something I gotta deal with and I've been like procrastinating on it. So like they'll do that specifically so they have to attack it because it's going to amp up everything. And now like your mind won't let you get off the topic. So you're gonna have to figure it out.
Mhm. Which can be good and bad
So
too. I mean, if
it
you
can
figure it
be.
out and you come out of it and you get over some trauma that you've been dealing with for many years, like that could be good. But I don't feel like people are that, unless you're like a veteran with doing that kind of stuff. I don't know if many people are prepared to have that like psychological battle with themselves for the most part. They're
I don't
doing
know.
it for fun, you know?
I feel like everyone, which is a thing people don't do enough, they're not introspective enough, which they don't like look in the mirror and have constant self-talk conversation with themselves. Like, okay, this is what I'm doing with life. Do I really like this? Do I really like this? Is this like where it is this gonna go to where is this stuff that I'm doing putting me to the goal that I want to do? Like this should be a normal conversation that happens like daily, like just because it's just what should.
Hmm.
You should know what you want to do with life because if you don't, then you're gonna start doing stuff you don't really like, and then you're gonna be like, where did I go wrong? All that other stuff. So like, I feel like that's why people microdose a little bit because I feel like it gives you that little bit of it. So like you start like having that self-talk way more, and you learn those techniques easier.
So how big of a part do you think this, experimentation has on your current outlook on life?
Uh, Not that much. I've always I've had like when I was younger, like in like middle school, high school, like my brother and my mom, like my brother, my mom, and my dad all like worked in New York, but we were still living in Jersey. So there'd be times I'd be home alone all the time. And since we just moved from Brooklyn to from New York to New Jersey, I didn't have a lot of friends at that moment. So honestly, that's when I truly learned my self-talk and understanding like, okay, I'm going to like I like doing this. Let me try this out. This is what makes me feel good. How are you doing? You don't are you feeling down? Why are you feeling down? We should probably do something to change that. So like but just like all of life, it's just practice. And so when I started doing those type of psychedelic situations, it was just like honestly, like I was really easy. Like it's really easy. Me never had a bad trip, and it's truly just like, oh, this feels normal. Like
Hmm.
I do this anyway. It's just really like now, like all the colors are brighter, and like when I want to do something fun, it's so nice. And like this TV show I love now.
Hmm.
Like, so I just ride the wave so much easier.
That's cool, man. Well, yeah, it sounds like you're going into it with the right headspace every time, and you have the right approach towards it.
I think it's just like, even it's all about acceptance. That's all I'm saying. Like, everything's just about acceptance. This thing is happening at that moment. You have to, you have to know that this is happening. And maybe I don't like it, but this current moment, I have no power to change it. If you go and like, because like people will go into it and they're trying to like change something at this moment. Like, what are you doing? You're in this room. Like, you train, like, are you about to like call your boss right now and do? No, you can't do that. Like, so why are you even thinking about it? Like, these are just wasteful thoughts, wasteful energy. Just accept, like, you can make up a plan. Sure, make up the plan. But once you make up the plan, I'd be done with it because you can't enact the plan right now. So it's just like you could be in a bad place, like emotionally, and still, I feel like still trip as long as you accept and know that I'm in a bad place. I don't want to be in this bad place because once you then like you accept it, it's not anxious anymore because you just know where you are in life. So like you won't have a bad trip.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, acceptance is key, man. I mean, not just with experimentation like that, but also, every single part of your life, like you're saying, I feel like a lot of us, like going back to what I was saying earlier about what you would tell somebody who always has that excuse, that's always like, this isn't happening the way I want because X, Y, and Z. I think that's fundamentally coming down to a lack of acceptance. That's where you have to start. You have to just be like, you have to be radically accepting of your situation. And I've talked about this before about doing, personal audits on your life and just accepting it and making it your fault, no matter what it is, even if it's completely not your fault, like where you're born or like the family that you grew up in. That's not your fault, of course, but like you have to accept that and you have to own it, right? To move forward.
Yeah. I feel that. There's like have you ever heard of Eckhart Tolle? He's like
Hmm.
a author. He's really great at that. And like I like his second book, it's a less famous one. I don't know why, because it's way better. It's called The Power of Now. Or like no, it's called Power of Now is his first one. The
Yeah.
second book is called The New Earth. That is amazing. And it's truly about like acceptance and like understanding like what you can do with that acceptance and how you can create so much more potential out of it. It's like that's one of my favorite books. I always like recommend it to people, and like I don't know why people don't like people will like get other books I recommend, but like, yo, this one's better. And it's like,
Mhm.
but like, what is it? Is it teaching me like some hat? And like, I'm telling you, this one's better.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
I'll take your word for it, man. I've never read New Earth. I read Power of Now, but I'll put it on the list.
New Earth is fire. It's one of my favorite books. I've read
Okay.
it 3 times now.
Okay. Hell yeah. I'll check it out. Yeah, we got to do a few more book swaps, Let me know what's on your list. I always see you posting out, little clips and excerpts from the books you're reading. So I'm always down to increase the knowledge.
Yeah, feed me knowledge.
100%. Yeah, so Davon, what is new for you in terms of, well, not new. Um what is on the horizon for you? Like what are you planning in the future? What is kind of your ultimate goal? Do you have a kind of a target or a mission that you're on right now? Like what's going on?
Main focus is like spreading like my nonprofit and making it big in Las Vegas.
Hmm.
It's we just really started it this year, and as like I was telling you, like my family's had it for a while since like 2008, but we haven't really done much with it. And then I moved back to Vegas like 2 years ago, and since then, like me and my mom have like been trying to work on it more, and like I put like because it was basically just it's always been like a fitness center type situation, and then I just added like different details because I was basically like, okay, wait, I think like all of this has to do with fitness, like mental, spiritual, and like that. So I just added that part to it. So then like I'm building programs around it. You just gotta like grow one step at a time. That's what I'm doing at this current moment, and
Hmm.
believe I believe it'll be good by September. She says by the end of the year. But either way, we're moving up, and I just want to spread a positive message throughout like Vegas in general. It's called
Nice.
Sin City. How about we like help people with some of those sins?
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, Vegas doesn't seem like the scene for that. I mean, I'm sure there are people that are interested in it, and you guys have been doing it for a while, but it's not like a ripe like you wouldn't go to Vegas necessarily for
I don't
spirituality.
know. When you like when you're trying to fix an issue, don't you go to the place with the issue the most? Like you don't go to the place
Yeah.
where everyone's doing okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like it's
Yeah.
the best place.
I feel that, man. I've heard a lot about Austin, Texas, and I've had a couple people, well, one guy in particular, Bobby Hobart from Austin on the podcast, and just met a lot of people from there, and it's just like it's like a hub for spirituality and wellness and creators and all this kind of stuff. But I don't think they need any more, like they're chock full. They got it all. They got plenty of
Yeah,
those type of people. So we got to start spreading that message in places where, people might be down in their luck or they need to hear it the most. So, keep doing what you're doing, man. It sounds awesome.
nice.
And then you were
And
also
so you
saying you were working on becoming a therapist. Is that, or you were studying to become a therapist?
yeah, I'm trying to get my master's degree. That's like where I put like because eventually I want to be the therapist that's inside of the nonprofit, and like that would be like I'll have that would be like my board position because like what we're basically what I'm trying to like do is you'll have a gym, but like inside the same building with the gym, it specifically has therapy offices and social work offices. And I'm trying to connect the whole physical fitness with mental like health because I feel especially guys sometimes have a hard time going to therapy because they make them feel like they're weak and like society might do that type of situation. So I'm just trying to change the narrative about like how you become a stronger person by understanding like these are like ways that truly make you into that person that you are trying to be. This is not like you're not showing that you're weak, you're building yourself up to be better. And like by doing it and like I feel like gyms and like specifically boxing gyms because like that's what my family does. That's a very male dominated sport and like when you have those two things connected and you show people like it's okay to do it and these type of people are doing it, other people are like maybe I should try it because like you just need to be that front runner who just like says it's okay. I'm still like you see me, I'm still like a strong, dominant or like manly man. Just because I go to therapy, honestly, it just made me an even better person. And yeah,
Facts. Yeah, I definitely feel like there's too much emphasis on specific types of masculinity, like the archetype of masculinity nowadays, where there's like, yeah, that blueprint for us to follow now if we want to like boost our, our testosterone and become the ultimate man. But it's like you're neglecting so many parts of your life that are going to come around to bite you in huge ways. Like if you're not working on your EQ, your emotional intelligence, and like we're talking about earlier, learning how to understand people, learning how to read people, being aware of their emotions that they bring into the room, like you're gonna suffer at one point or another, whether that's in your relationships or whether that's in the workplace. Like it's at one point or another, it's gonna come around. So that's great to hear, man, that you're trying to connect those dots.
yeah,
So
we get there.
yeah, yeah, 100%. It just takes a lot of time, I feel like, to open people's minds up to it. And also the other thing I was thinking of is it's one of the more fascinating things to me when there's someone who has that duality, like you're saying, like they look like they're I'm just a guy and bro in the gym. I'm a meathead, strong dude, and you kind of put them in a box when you look at them on the surface level. You're like, all right, this person's probably not into all these things like what we're talking about, therapy and spirituality. But one of the most fascinating things is when you have that duality of experience where somebody's like, they surprise you with that, and I don't think people really put enough emphasis on that, like how interesting that is. Like that makes you an interesting fucking person if you're like, you're doing this, you're starting a business, you're entrepreneurial, but then you're also like going on these meditation retreats or you're experimenting with psychedelics, but then you're also like very business oriented. Like these things don't, when you mix those two and you mesh those two pieces of life that normally don't go together, that's so brilliant to me. Like that's all I'm trying to do nowadays. Is like I'm just trying to do shit that I normally wouldn't do that would just surprise people and like I don't know, go to a fucking rodeo one day. Like I don't even like country music, but I just want to do something like different and out of the box to kind of create that duality. So, is there anything else that you're thinking of like in that combination of like spirituality and fitness? Because I saw that you guys were doing like book clubs as well. Is that a part of that? Like the intellectual side as well?
Yeah, like that's just like you always got to keep your mind sharp. Plus, I just want like books have such a big genre that like okay, maybe this person's into spiritual situations or like self-help books. I know way too many people who would like say like, "Oh, I read, but I only read self-help books." I'm like, "Why?" Like you're just cutting yourself off with to like so many different experiences and like I love like
Mhm.
just diving into different like genres because you just pick up like different information and like feelings for it. That's why
Mhm.
like I love fantasy books and it's a different way to use your brain because like they're creating these entire worlds in this piece and like that's incredible. Like just think about like what people know like Harry Potter, Game of Thrones. Those are like entire worlds that have in-depth like ah, have in-depth workings throughout like relationships, history, like like how specific people are leveled up. Why does this thing do this? They even do like the small, like little, you think it's like not important, but those make life more real because it's always like the small things that like, oh wow, they even thought of that. I just love that type of situations. And like I feel people don't get to express their love for that type of things too much in like open venues. I like I don't know where to find groups for that type of stuff. Like so I wanted to create a group.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great idea. I need to get in some book clubs myself. Have you ever read the book The Alchemist?
Yes, honestly, I was in a book club the first time I read that book.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
with this cute ass girl. She's bad. Uh,
That's a good place to meet him.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, that book, what you're talking about with novels, like that book for me is so cool because it's a combination of self-help and a novel. Like it's a story, but it's
Yeah,
all mixed in with like these little tidbits about pursuing your personal legend and listening to your heart and going after what you want and listen, not listening to the doubters and all that kind of stuff. So I need to get more need to read more books like that because I feel like that is just you're on a mission, you're on like that fantasy land, that kind of fantasy track in
hmm.
your mind, but it's also giving you those nuggets of wisdom.
There's this book called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. It's kind of like that. It like gives you because it's it's about like when someone dies and you just go through like their experiences through death, but like it's so fiction oriented and it's all about like alternate timelines and situations. So like you're like they'll be just dropping like big nuggets of like, wow, that was deep as fuck. But like then they're like doing something wow that's like okay. So like
Hmm.
I think those are the best because like you're entertained as you're learning something.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's the goal. Sweet, man. Well, um, if there's anything else that you want to plug the listeners with, where they can find you, anything that's up and coming or what to watch out for, I think now's a good time.
Uh, I guess plug my Instagram. I think I changed it to Sage of the Gym. And also my nonprofit, the website is like newbreednp.org. It's NEWBREEDNP.org. And yeah, that's it.
Sweet, dude. Yeah, appreciate your time. Great chatting with you. Everybody, give my man Dave on a follow, and you'll see anything and everything you want to know about spirituality, wellness, fitness, and much more. So appreciate connecting with you,
Let's
man.
see,
And
ask me questions. I suck at sometimes posting. I'd be like, what am I gonna post or what am I gonna talk about? Like I have a lot of information, but like sometimes I just don't know what to say unless someone like gives me a question like, okay, I could talk to you about this.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, for
I
sure.
need to
That's
get
always
more.
helpful doing like polls and stuff and getting direct feedback from people.
Yeah,
Cool, man. Well, yeah, again, appreciate your time, and we'll have to do a part two sometime in the future and just keep checking
I'm down.
in, hearing all the new books and the festivals that you've gone
Jeez.
to and all that.
Well, let me see you at a festival, then we can do a part two about it.
That'd be sick. That would be unheard of, man. I don't think anybody's ever done a podcast at a festival. Maybe they have, but I'm not sure.
They have.
They
It's
have.
it's kind of becoming new, but it's still dope.
Okay, all right. It's still new enough to where it's
Yeah,
exciting. It's not overplayed yet. I mean,
it's not overplayed.
okay, all right, chill. Sweet, man. Well, until then, have a good weekend and catch you next time.
Whatever.